If you're thinking about getting your PMP right now, there's a good chance that you're already tired. Not lazy or unmotivated, but just carrying a lot. Work, family, life moving fast when you're just trying to carry it forward. And before you open a book, before you buy a course, there's one decision that you need to make that most people skip. Why you actually want this. Because most PMP failures don't happen on exam day. They happen weeks earlier when motivation runs out. You don't fail because the material is impossible. You fail because the reason you started can't survive fatigue. A lot of starts come from the wrong place. Pressure from work or a resume bullet or a sense that you're supposed to have it by now. Those reasons sound responsible, but they just don't last. When you're exhausted after a full day, when the practice questions blur together, or when no one is checking on your progress. Let me tell you where my reason came from. When I decided to go for the PMP, I was already in the middle of everything. Work didn't slow down, family life didn't pause. I was fixing up my house to get it ready to sell. Trying to move my family forward and not just keep things afloat. There was no clean window, no perfect timing, and I didn't do it because I thought the credential would magically change my life. I did it because I wanted to solidify something that already mattered. I was already operating like a project manager, making trade-offs, managing risk, explaining decisions, absorbing complexity, but I wanted the framework behind it, the tools, the shared language, the discipline to explain why something felt right. I wanted to stop guessing. And yes, I wanted to stand out in my role as senior project manager, not by working more, but by thinking clearly. That was my why. Once I made that decision, I didn't stretch it out. I challenged myself to do it in a month. Not because it was easy, but because dragging it out would have drained me more. At this point, you might be thinking a month sounds intense. It was, but intensity with a clear reason is different than pressure with a vague one. I wasn't studying just to pass a test. I was studying to lock in a mindset that I planned to use for years. In my career and in my personal life too. Because once you start seeing things clearly, you realize that everything is a project. Work initiatives, family goals, selling the house, big decisions that don't come with instructions. And that is where the PMP actually matters. Not when you're hoping it fixes your career, but when your career and your life already depend on how well you manage complexity, ambiguity, and expectations. If your work already depends on decisions and not tasks, if outcomes land on you, whether your title says project manager or not, if you're expected to see around corners and manage trade-offs, that's where the PMP moves the needle. And it's also where the real cost shows up. Not just the exam fee, not just the books or the course. The real cost is cognitive load. You're learning new frameworks while still delivering at work. You're thinking critically when your mental energy is already spent. And some nights you're choosing to study instead of rest. That's why your reason matters more than your schedule. There were nights where I didn't want to open anything PMP related. Not because I didn't care, but because I was already giving a lot to everything else that mattered. The only thing that carried me through wasn't discipline, it was clarity. I knew why I was doing it. And that reason didn't disappear when I was tired. So before you start, ask yourself this honestly. When this gets hard, when you fall behind, when no one is watching, will your reason still make sense? Because if your why can't survive fatigue, don't start. At least not yet. And if you're still figuring it out, that's not weakness, that's awareness. For now, just sit with this. Why this? And why now?